Hey YouTube, what is up? Quite literally in the middle of me making my last masked hero deck profile, the ban list got announced. And of course, heroes got hit a little bit with the Rhoda loss and stuff like that. They tried to take Rhoda out, I guess for Satellar Knights because it's still on top. Stat doesn't do shit for them. They still have Skybridge and anything like that. So Satellar Knights are still running as strong as ever, and that's a good deck to invest in if you invested in it early because it's been untouched for about a year. So yeah, let's get into this deck profile and show you what I changed for the November 8th ban list. I still run one Thunder King and one Goblinberg. These two cards come in handy. Goblinberg just because it allows you, if you have a Goblinberg and a Summoner Monk in hand and one spell card, you can get 3 level 4 monsters on the field, which opens up a lot of plays for you. And the Thunder King Ryo because it basically stops your opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! You can bring it back with Call the Haunted, and it's still super useful. I then run 3 Shadow Mist. You can't really run less than that in this deck. I'm glad Shadow Mist didn't get touched with this ban list. But yeah, 3 Shadow Mist. If you don't know what it does, basically when special summon, you get a mask change kind of card to your hand. And if you don't use that effect and it's sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add any hero from your deck to your hand that's not a Shadow Mist. So it's pretty useful. I also run Elemental Hero Bubble Man, 2 of them. I run 2. You don't have to run 2 if you don't like it, I guess, but it's really useful, especially if you have an Acid in your extra deck, because he's basically an MST. I then run Neos Alias because I run a Koga, and then I put this card in because I don't have it right now, but I'm getting it next week, and that is Satellar Knight Awesome. And if you don't know what it does, it's if this card is summoned in any way, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. So special summons, normal summons, Call the Haunted, that's 1,000 burn to your opponent. It's basically a hyped up, like a super Gaga Cowboy, and with the other cards I put in my deck, you'll see why it works a little better. I also have a Summoner Monk, well 2 of them to be specific, but yeah, I run Summoner Monks because I could ditch any spell, especially cards like A Hero Lives, and you get the special summon out of it without having to pay half your life points. A Hero Lives is good. I like running 2. I don't want to run 3 because if I draw 2 of these in the first turn, I kind of mess myself up. I'd rather just draw 1 in like the first couple hands, and then it's really useful. But yeah, 4,000 life points is a hefty price to pay, but if you lose, it doesn't matter how many life points you lost because you lost. I then run 2 Forbidden Lance, or Lancia Prohibita. And yeah, you gotta protect Dark Law or any of your cards, to be honest with you. Then I run 2 Instant Fusions, because Nodin was untouched, thank God, and so was Instafusion. So I'm happy that there's 2 still in my deck. It still runs really well, and it's a good way to get rank 4s out, and it's good for that top deck clutch. And speaking of top deck clutch, Mass Charge as well. This allows you to basically pull any hero card you want from graveyard to your hand, and any mass change card to your hand. So that's pretty good. You could basically play Ring around the Dark Law, have a Dark Law on the field and a mass change set. Your opponent targets that Dark Law, mass change it. You have a Dark Law in the grave and a mass change in the grave, but they basically burned it. Next turn, mass charge, put that Dark Law back in your extra deck and redraw that mass change and then set it again. And it's basically a way to protect Dark Law by just switching it with another Dark Law. So it's a good way to protect Dark Law without any other dedicated traps to protect it, or if you don't have a Lance. I then run 3 E-Call. I was unable to get a third one so far, but I'm going to have one by Saturday when I'm actually going to be playing in this ban list timing kind of thing. And the 3 E-Call is just bumping up E-Call to replace the lost Rhodas. E-Call is Hero's Rhoda, and it makes sense to have it. I still do run 1 Rhoda as well, and that's to get the Goblinberg, but it sucks that we had to get rid of them. They were really useful, and they were more multi-purpose than just E-Call, but switching it for E-Call doesn't hurt us that much. I also then run 3 Mass Change, because in this deck, Mass Change is life, and that's all you want to be doing is switching it to other cards. Especially if you could pull out a Dark Law first turn and you stop your opponent from having any cards in their graveyard and banished all of them. It really does mess up people a lot. I then run Book of Moon and Raigeki as my last 2 spells. Book of Moon just stops people from activating effects. It's really useful, and it also changes cards to defense position so you can destroy them because most cards usually have lower defense. And then I also use a Raigeki because Raigeki in combination with a Dark Law equals banish every monster your opponent has on the field. Then I run 3 Fiendish because it stops effects, and it's really useful. You can't really run less than this, I think. You can run 2 if your deck isn't really trap heavy, but if you have cards that you don't want destroyed, Fiendish Chain is the way to go, at least in my book. Breakthrough Skill is branching off a Fiendish Chain. It doesn't stop the attack, but it stops the effects, which is good enough for me sometimes. Then I got 2 Call the Haunteds. I was actually able to get 2 higher rarity Call the Haunteds, and I really like the way these look, so I decided to keep them. Call the Haunted basically works really well with Alsam, the Satellar Knight, because if you have it on the field, use it as an XYZ material, and then it gets sent to the graveyard because you use the XYZ's effect. Call the Haunt to bring it back. Your opponent just got burned for 2,000 basically on the Satellar Knight Awesome first summon and then on the second, which is really, really, really useful. Mirror Force and Mirror Force. Basically, Mirror Force is a great card to run, especially because we have Dark Law. It helps banish almost all your opponent's attack position monsters. So, yeah, it's not bad. It doesn't destroy defense position monsters, though. But, you know, Mirror Force does do work. So, as long as it does some work, I'm fine with it. Then I run Vanities to stop my opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I do Solemn Warning in case I'm about to get OTK'd or I know a large chain's coming up and I just destroy the first link before anything starts. It'll be worth the 2,000 to not take 4,000 to the face. And then I run one Bottomless just to banish an opponent's monster, especially if it's an XYZ or something like that I don't like. Bottomless it immediately, or Bottomless the first chain to stop the entire combo from going off. Next up, for my extra deck, which I have actually changed a little bit, there are some new cards, and that's why I wanted to show this. I still run 2 Dark Law. Dark Law is really good. I run 2 because I can protect Dark Law with the mass charge and mass change loop that I mentioned before. I would run 3, but then I feel like it limits me to my other cards. I do run 1 Koga. I run Koga instead of the Dark Rebellion XYZ because Koga's ability I think is a little better. You do have to banish 1 card, and Koga gains 500 attack for every card on the field, and then you can also drop your opponent's monster's attack by whatever health the monster that you banished is. Because Koga is used with Neos Alias is 1900, so unless your opponent's monster has 4,000 attack, Neos Alias and Koga will allow you to make it lose more attack than Dark Rebellion XYZ would. And I was able to finally get one. I got myself an Acid, which is the reason I don't run MSTs in this deck. I'm thinking about putting 1 in sometime, but for now I'm just running with Acid. It works really, really well. Mass Charge helps you get Acid back in case you need it. Then I run Anki. Anki's a good card to switch into. It's good because you can attack with it, destroy an opponent's monster, get the mass change off its effect, change it into Dark Law, and then attack again. It's also 2800 and it can swing directly, which works really well with Awesome, because if your opponent has a defensive wall you can't get over, you could still use Anki to swing for 1400, and just summoning Awesome burns them for 1000, so that's 2400. I do run 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Silent Honor Arc, 1 Castel, 1 Gagaga Samurai, and 1 Gagaga Cowboy. I mentioned this before, the reason I run Gagaga Samurai as opposed to something like I think Blade Dancer is because Gagaga Samurai can attack twice, but it also it forces your opponents to make it the target of an attack. So if your opponent attacks a monster, you can switch Gagaga to defense, and then your opponent will attack Gagaga Samurai regardless, and they can't target any other monster until they get rid of Gagaga, which is really good, and it does get the double attack. And then I run Excalibur because it really helps with the OTKs when you can do 4,000 straight to the face. I also run 1 Ptolemaeus because I'm running Satellar Knight Awesome. I figured Ptolemaeus would be a good match as well. Ptolemaeus is really good, and its price is going to go up because of Cyber Dragon Infinity, and this allows you to rank up. So I suggest getting Ptolemaeus before the price goes any higher. They're like 20 bucks now. So I'd say pick one up if you want to run this deck. You don't need a Ptolemaeus, but you do need either a Ptolemaeus or a Deltaros. Now, Deltaros was suggested by screencasters along with the Awesome combination, and it works fantastically. I don't know how to explain this any better. Deltaros is really useful because you can special summon it basically by having a Goblinberg, a Summoner Monk, and a spell card. Normal summon the Goblinberg, special summon the Summoner Monk ditches spell card, and then take an elemental hero. I'd say take Shadow Mist, but don't take its effect for the mass change. Instead, what you're going to want to do is use Satellar Knight Deltaros' effect because you can't have your opponent like mess with your summons at all, which is great with Deltaros. He's basically a big shield. Then what you do is take 1 card off Deltaros and burn your opponent. When you get to do that, you take off your Shadow Mist, sending it to the grave, which allows you to draw something like a Bubble Man. And if your opponent decides to get rid of your Deltaros after that, you special summon Satellar Knight Awesome. And right there, that's 1,000 to your opponent. And then what you do, because it's Satellar Knight Awesome special summoned, and you pretty much have no cards in your hand, special summon the Bubble Man, XYZ, something like that, and then attack your opponent. And if you do something like Excalibur, which you can do because Satellar Knight Awesome's a warrior and so is Bubble Man, you can go into Excalibur and do 4,000 to the face, plus the 1,000 from Satellar Knight Awesome in the first turn, because of its effect, and right there, that's 5,000. So shout out to screencasters for suggesting the Awesome Deltaros combo. I do like to run Ptolemaeus myself as well though, but you don't have to run Ptolemaeus. I just think it's useful because it's also the gateway to Diamond. And if you don't have 3 cards on the field, you can do Ptolemaeus, which is then going into Diamond. So if you're versing Shadal's, Ptolemaeus to Diamond is a great way to go. You don't have to do Deltaros that way, and I like the alternate plan basically, but once you get Diamond on the field with anybody that plays Dark Monsters, they're basically screwed. And, no graveyard use pretty much, no extra cards. It's ridiculous that Diamond's still legal. And the last card I have in my extra deck now is 1 Nodin. I removed the second Nodin to put in the Ptolemaeus, which I felt was a really good use, because I have yet, except for 1 duel, to use both Nodins from Instafusion. So yeah, I can't really, complain too much. Having 2 Nodins was a little bit of extra deck filler, I guess, but now that I have one, it works out really, really well. And now onto the extra deck. I run one Max C. I move this from my main deck to my side deck to make room for the Awesome, which works really well. I do also 2 Flying Cs to stop anybody that plays BA. It's really useful, and it's pretty much guaranteed to stop them unless they do something like Synchro, but not many of the people that I know that play BAs run Synchros for some reason. I also do Defusion and 2 MSTs. Defusions in case you get the mirror matchup, or against Shaddolls. Shaddolls did get hit really hard though, so Defusion really messes them up now, especially with stuff like Construct being gone. But Defusion's more for the mirror match, and it did come in handy in my mirror match as well. I also run 2 Light Imprisoning Mirrors. I used to main deck these, and they came in handy, but I decided to not main deck them, simply for the fact that I needed better cards in my deck that weren't so specific, and Light Imprisoning Mirror does hurt Koga a little bit, so I decided not to main deck these, but instead side deck them against stuff like Satellar Knight and Cosmos. I also do 2 Shared Rides still, because it's really, really useful, and I still can't believe the time I used Max C and this, and I went like plus 20 because the guy didn't want to stop with his Gem Knights. But yeah, it's still really useful. It comes in handy a lot, so I still keep it around. I do 2 Royal Commands as well, which also stops the Shaddol matchups, and it really hurts them even more now that they don't have Construct. So it's basically adding insult to injury and rubbing a little salt in the wound at the same time. Then I do 1 Rivalry of the Warlords and 2 Trap Stun. Trap Stun is the alternate to Royal Decree because it doesn't hurt me as much. It stops after 1 turn, so my opponent can't activate traps on my turn, but I can activate traps on theirs. Royal Decree hurts everybody and no one can use traps at that point. So unless you run something like hand traps, which are really just monsters, you would rather run Trap Stun, and so would I, to be honest. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment down below with your alternates to a Shadow Mist / Masked Hero deck profile for the ban list of November 8th. And shout out to Screencasters for suggesting the awesome combo with Deltaros and for the Chaos Dragon tech. They both work really, really well. So, that's it guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Click subscribe if you want because it's free, it's fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.